The police knocked at 8:17 p.m. right as I was rinsing a coffee mug I hadn't finished. 2 officers. One older, one younger. Both polite in the way that tells you this isn't urgent anymore. Just unfinished. "Ma'am, are you Anna Carter?" I dried my hands slowly. "Yes." A pause. The older one glanced at his partner, then back at me. "We need to confirm something from an old report." Old. That word did something to my chest. Not sharp. Not sudden. Just pressure. "What kind of report?" I asked. The younger officer checked a tablet. "Missing persons, filed 13 years ago." I didn't answer, because that was the first time anyone had said it out loud in that long. Missing. Not left. Not cut off. Not disappeared on purpose. Missing. I nodded once. "I'm not missing," I said. The older officer almost smiled. "We can see that." A pause. "Can we come in for a moment?" I stepped aside. "Sure." They walked in carefully like they didn't want to disturb anything. My apartment was small. 2 bedrooms. Clean. Structured. Everything had a place. That mattered. Because for 13 years I had built a life that didn't require explanation. They sat at the table. I stayed standing for a second, then sat across from them. The younger officer placed the tablet down. "There was a report filed by your family," he said. "Yes." "Stating concerns about your mental state at the time." I didn't react. Because the words were familiar. Not from him. From before. She was unstable. She needed help. She couldn't manage on her own. All said in softer voices. In living rooms. At church. To neighbors. To anyone who asked just enough questions to be told a version of me that made everything easier. The older officer leaned forward slightly. "We just need to close the file properly." I nodded. "Okay." A pause. "Are you in contact with them now?" "Number." Another pause. "Do you wish to be—" "Number." He didn't write that down right away. He just looked at me. Not judging. Not probing. Just confirming. Then he nodded. Understood. The younger officer tapped something on the tablet. "Last known address matched here," he said. "Employment stable. Medical records clear." I almost smiled at that. Clear. That word hadn't been part of my family's vocabulary when it came to me. "Everything checks out," he added. The older officer stood. "Then we'll mark the case resolved." Resolved. Another clean word. I walked them to the door. They didn't ask more questions. Didn't offer advice. Didn't suggest reconnecting. That mattered. Because sometimes closure isn't a conversation. It's a form being updated. At the door, the older officer paused. "There's one more thing," he said. I waited. "Someone requested a notification when the case was closed." A pause. "Your family." I held the door. "Okay." He nodded. "Just so you're aware." "I am." They left. I closed the door. Locked it. Then stood there for a moment. Not moving. Not thinking. Just listening to the quiet settle back into place. Then my phone buzzed. Once. Then again. Then again. I picked it up. Unknown numbers. Voicemail notifications stacking. 3, 7, 12. I didn't play them. Not yet. Because I already knew the tone. Not concern. Not relief. Control. I set the phone down on the counter. Walked back to the sink. Finished rinsing the mug. Dried it. Placed it upside down on the rack. Small actions. Clear endings. The phone buzzed again. I looked at it this time. 33 notifications. All within minutes. All from numbers I didn't recognize. I picked it up. Held it in my hand. Didn't unlock it. Because 13 years ago, I had learned something clearly. People don't call you back when they miss you. They call when something changes. I turned the screen on. Scrolled. Same message repeated. Different numbers. Same sentence. Don't open the box. I stared at that line for a moment. Then locked the phone again. Because whatever had just started, it hadn't started tonight. It had been waiting. For 13 years. And now, it had finally found me. I didn't open the voicemails that night. Not out of fear. Out of timing. At 9:05, I turned the phone face down, poured a glass of water, sat at the table. 33 missed calls. Same sentence. Don't open the box. No one says that unless the box matters. And no one warns you unless they think you still listen. I didn't. Not anymore. I slept normally. That surprised me. No replay. No racing thoughts. Just quiet. At 6:40 a.m., I woke up before the alarm. Made coffee. Opened my laptop. Routine. Emails. Calendar. A vendor call at 9. The life I had built didn't pause because something old knocked on the door. That mattered. At 7:15, I unlocked the phone. Opened one voicemail. A woman's voice. Not my mother. My aunt. Soft, careful. Anna, please don't open anything you receive. Just call us first. I ended it. Second voicemail. My half-brother. Rushed. Whatever they gave you, don't sign anything. Just call me. I ended it. Third. Raymond. Even. Controlled. Anna, there's context you don't have. Don't act on incomplete information. I stopped there. Context. Incomplete information. Those words felt familiar. I set the phone down. Finished my coffee. Went to work. At 9 o'clock, I was on a call with a supplier about delayed shipments. Clear problem. Defined solution. No hidden layers. At 11:30, a receptionist tapped on my office door. There's a package for you. I looked up. From who? No return name. Of course. I signed for it. Brought it to my desk. Medium-sized box. Standard shipping label. No markings. I didn't open it. Not immediately. I placed it to the side. Finished my current task. Closed the file. Then turned to it. 13 years is a long time to wait for something. You don't rush it. I ran my hand over the top. Cardboard. Light. No sound inside when I moved it slightly. I cut the tape. Opened the flaps. Inside. A file box. The kind used for documents. Organized. Labeled. Not random. I lifted it out. Set it on the desk. Opened it. Folders. Tab divided. Property. Insurance. Medical. Legal. I paused. Oh. Not because I didn't understand. Because I did. This wasn't a warning. It was a record. I pulled the first folder. Property. Documents inside. Deeds. Transfers. My name appeared. Not as owner. As something else. I didn't go further. Not yet. Because once you start reading, you change what you can ignore. My phone buzzed again. Emily. My sister. I watched it ring. Didn't answer. Voicemail. Then another call. Then silence. I looked at the box. They weren't afraid I'd get hurt. They were afraid I'd understand. At 100, I closed the office door, turned off notifications, and opened the next folder. The medical folder was thinner than I expected. 3 documents. 1 intake form. 1 physician note. 1 discharge summary. All dated the same week. 13 years ago. I sat back, not reading yet, just placing it. Because that week was the one they talked about. The one they used. The one that became the explanation for everything that followed. I opened the intake form. My name. Age 32. Address still listed as my mother's house. Chief complaint. Family concern regarding instability. I read that line twice. Not because I didn't understand it, because I remembered how it had been said. Maybe she needs to talk to someone, just to be safe. You've been under a lot of stress. Not accusations, suggestions. That's how it starts. The physician note was next. Short. Clinical. Patient coherent, oriented, no signs of acute psychiatric distress. I stopped there. Read it again. Clear. No ambiguity. I placed it back on the desk. Then opened the discharge summary. No admission indicated. Follow-up optional. Optional. That word mattered. Because in their version, I had been unstable. In the record, I had been fine. I closed the folder. Not quickly. Carefully. Because something had just shifted. Not in memory. In proof. The next folder was labeled legal. I hesitated for a second. Then opened it. More documents. A report. Filed by Raymond. Subject missing. Concerns for safety. Date 2 days after that appointment. I read the timeline once. Then again. Because it lined up too cleanly. Medical clearance. Then missing report. No gap. No escalation. Just transition. I leaned back in my chair. 13 years ago I had left. Not disappeared. Not wandered off. Left. Packed a bag. Took my car. Drove to a motel off I-40. Turned off my phone. Not because I was unstable. Because I understood something clearly. They weren't asking questions to understand me. They were asking questions to position me. And once that position was set, everything else would follow. I stayed gone. Changed numbers. Moved cities. Built something new. Quietly. Because correction requires engagement. And engagement was the one thing I chose not to give. I looked at the report again. Subject missing. That wasn't a mistake. It was a decision. The next page. Insurance documents. Policy adjustments. Beneficiaries. Changes made in the same time window. I didn't go deeper. Not yet. Because the pattern was already clear. Narrative. Then paperwork. Not the other way around. My phone buzzed again. This time a text. Emily. Please don't go through everything alone. I stared at it. Not emotional. Just aware. Alone was exactly how I had built the last 13 years. And it had worked. I didn't reply. At 3:20 I stood up. Walked to the window. Parking lot below. People moving. Normal day. Nothing in the outside world reflected what had just changed inside that office. That mattered. Because most shifts aren't visible. They're internal. Structural. And once you see them, you can't unsee them. I turned back to the desk. Looked at the box. They hadn't warned me because I would be hurt. They warned me because I would understand the order. And once I saw the order, their version wouldn't hold. I sat down again. Opened the next folder. Ready this time. The insurance folder was thicker. That was the first thing I noticed. Not just documents. History. policy statements, amendments, beneficiary changes. All time-stamped. All within a narrow window. The same week. I flipped through slowly. Not scanning. Reading. Because patterns only matter if you take the time to see them. First change. Primary beneficiary adjusted. From my mother alone. To my mother and Raymond. Second change. Property rider added. The house. Assigned valuation. 3.6 million. I paused there. Not because of the number. Because of the timing. The valuation had been done before I left. Before the report. Before the narrative. Third change. Contingent beneficiary. My name removed. Replaced. Luke. I sat back. That part wasn't surprising. Yes, it fit. But what mattered wasn't who replaced me. It was when. I pulled the timeline together in my head. Medical clearance. Then insurance changes. Then missing report. Not scattered. Sequenced. I turned the page. A note from the agent. Brief. Client requests expedited processing. Client. Not my mother. Raymond. I didn't need to confirm it. The signature was there. Clean. Confident. I closed the folder halfway. Rested my hand on it. For 13 years I had believed something simple. That they misunderstood me. That they overreacted. That things escalated in ways no one fully controlled. That belief made it easier to leave. Cleaner. But this wasn't escalation. It was sequence. And sequence requires intention. My phone rang. Not Emily this time. Unknown number. I answered. Anna. Raymond. Same voice. Same pace. Don't open the rest of that box. I didn't answer. A pause. There's context you don't have, he said. I leaned back. Then say it. Silence. Not hesitation. Calculation. This isn't the place for that conversation, he said. I almost smiled. It seems like the place where it started. Another pause. You left, he said. Yes. You made that decision. I held the phone. I responded to one. Silence. That's not how it was, he said. It is in the record. He didn't respond. Because the record didn't adjust for tone. We need to talk in person, he said. Number. Flat. Clear. A pause. You don't understand everything yet, he added. I looked at the open folder. I understand enough. Silence. Then. You're going to make this worse. I didn't answer. Because worse depends on who's losing control. He hung up. I set the phone down. Looked at the box. 3 folders left. Property. Financial. And one labeled simply Personal. I reached for the property file. Because whatever came next, it wasn't about who I had been. It was about what had been moved. And why. I opened it. The property file was organized the way I would have organized it. That was the first thing that unsettled me. Clean tabs. Chronological order. Copies not originals. Someone had taken time with this. Not rushed. Intentional. I opened the first section. Deed records. Original title. My mother's name. Then an amendment. Not a transfer. A structure change. The property placed into a trust. Date 2 weeks before that week. Trustee, my mother. Successor trustee. I paused. Read it again. My name. Not removed. Not replaced. Still there. I leaned back. That didn't fit the pattern from the insurance file. 2 systems. 2 different outcomes. I turned the page. Supporting documentation. Signature pages. Witnessed. Valid. The next section. Property Management Authority. Conditions outlined. Trigger events. Incapacity. Dispute. Absence. I stopped there. Absence. Defined. If primary occupant is no longer present or reachable management authority, transfers to successor trustee. I read that line slowly. Then again, because it connected everything. Not emotionally. Structurally. I left. They reported me missing. The trust activated. Authority transferred. Not to Raymond. To me. I closed my eyes for a second. Because this wasn't chaos. It was design. The next document confirmed it. Correspondence between my mother and her attorney. Brief. Direct. I want Anna protected if things become difficult. No explanation. No elaboration. Just instruction. I sat there. 13 years of distance compressed into one line. Protected. Not replaced. Not excluded. Protected. I exhaled slowly. Because protection only matters if there's something to protect against. The final section. Recent activity. Requests for refinancing. Property access forms. All unsigned. All incomplete. Because they couldn't proceed. Not without me. That was why the calls had started. Not because I was found. Because I was required. My phone buzzed again. Emily? I answered. Silence on the other end for a second. Then, you opened it. Yes. A pause. I told you not to. I didn't respond. Because that wasn't a statement. It was a habit. We didn't know it was structured like that, she said. I looked at the documents. You knew enough to move everything else. Silence. That was different, she said. I didn't argue. Because difference is often just perspective. We thought you were gone, she added. I held the phone. I was. A pause. Nay, not like that, she said. I didn't answer. Because intent doesn't change outcome. We need to figure this out, she said. I looked at the trust document again. Yes. Silence. You're not going to just sign off, are you? There it was. Direct. Clear. I leaned back. Number? A pause. Then what do you want? I considered that. Not emotionally. Structurally. I want it handled correctly. Silence. That's vague, she said. It's precise. Another pause. Okay, she said. Not agreement. Adjustment. We'll need to meet, she added. I looked at the box. The folders. The sequence. Yes, I said. But not the way we used to. Silence. Then, I understand. For the first time. She might have. We didn't meet right away. That was the first boundary. In the past, urgency came from them. Tone. Timing. Pressure disguised as concern. This time, I said it. Monday at 10. Neutral space. A small conference room at a local credit union. Not the house. Not my office. Somewhere structured. Emily arrived first. Sat facing the door. Phone on the table. Screen down. Raymond came in 2 minutes later. Didn't sit immediately. Looked around. Assessing. Then took the chair across from me. I placed the documents between us. Not stacked. Not hidden. Visible. Luke came last. Quiet. Closed the door behind him. No one spoke for a moment. That mattered. Because silence now meant uncertainty. Not control. Emily started. We didn't know the trust would activate like that. I nodded. It did. A pause. Raymond leaned forward. You left. Yes. That triggered it. I held his gaze. You reported me missing. Silence. That's what the record says. He didn't respond. Because the record wasn't his language. It was mine. Emily stepped in. We thought you were unstable. I didn't answer. Because belief doesn't change documentation. Luke spoke. We didn't understand the implications. I looked at him. You understand them now. A pause. He nodded. Raymond exhaled. This isn't productive. I didn't move. It is, I said. Silence. Because productivity had changed. It wasn't about moving forward. It was about aligning with what already existed. Emily looked at the documents. So what happens now, she asked. There it was. The shift. Not accusation. Not direction. Request. I placed my hand on the trust file. This governs the property, I said. A pause. All decisions go through this structure. Raymond shook his head slightly. That's not practical. I looked at him. It's enforceable. Silence. Emily leaned back. We need to refinance, she said. I nodded. Then we need to review the terms together. Another pause. And agree. She nodded slowly. Raymond didn't. But he didn't interrupt either. That mattered. Luke looked between us. So, no one moves forward alone. I nodded. Yes. Silence. Then Emily said, That's fair. Fair. That word had never been part of our dynamic before. Not in practice. At 10:40, we started reviewing the numbers. Not quickly. Not emotionally. Line by line. Income. Expenses. Actuals. Not assumptions. Raymond spoke less. Emily asked questions. Luke listened. And I didn't take over. I guided. At 11:20, we reached the lender terms. Not sustainable. Too aggressive. I slid the page forward. This doesn't hold, I said. Emily read it. Nodded. I see that now. Raymond looked at it. Didn't argue. That was new. Luke leaned back. So we restructure. I nodded. Yes. Silence. Then Emily looked at me. What do you want your role to be in this? I held her gaze. Defined. A pause. Not assumed. She nodded. That's fair. Again. Fair. At 11:45, we closed the meeting. No resolution. But alignment. That was enough. Outside, the air felt different. Not lighter. Clearer. Because for the first time, they weren't reacting to a version of me. They were responding to structure. And structure doesn't negotiate with perception. The next Sunday, they set the table for 4. That was the first visible change. Same house, same kitchen, same light coming through the back windows in the late afternoon. But the spacing was different. No extra chair pulled in at the end. No seat implied as temporary. 4 places. Even. I arrived at 5:58. Not early. Not late. On time. Emily opened the door. Hey. Hey. A pause. Come in. No hesitation. No adjustment in tone. Just space. Raymond was at the counter. Luke at the sink. Dion. They both looked up. Not surprised. Not evaluating. Just aware. That mattered more than anything they could have said. We sat. Dinner started without direction. No one assigning roles. No one correcting placement. At 6:10, Emily spoke. The lender came back with revised terms. Yeah, I nodded. Okay. A pause. They match what we discussed. Yes. Silence. Raymond added. They're more conservative. I looked at him. They hold. A pause. He nodded. Not agreeing. Accepting. That was enough. Luke leaned back. It feels different now, he said. I didn't answer. Because it did. Not in tone. In structure. At 6:25, Emily turned toward me. We want to move forward with this, she said. I nodded. Okay. A pause. With you involved. I held her gaze. Yes. Not emotional. Not symbolic. Just defined. At 6:40, plates shifted. Luke stood first. Carried dishes to the sink. Emily followed. Raymond stayed seated for a moment. then stood. Picked up his glass. Small movement. But it mattered. Because for years, movement had followed him. Now, it didn't. At 6:55 I stood. I'll review the final draft when it comes, I said. Emily nodded. We'll send it. No urgency. No pressure. Just agreement. At the door, Raymond spoke. You handled this well. I turned. Looked at him. Yes. A pause. I did. He didn't respond. Because that sentence didn't require acknowledgement. It stood on its own. Luke stepped forward. We didn't see it before he said. I nodded. I know. No blame. No correction. Just fact. Emily walked me to the door. Thank you, she said. I looked at her. For what? For not making it worse. I almost smiled. I didn't make it better either. A pause. I let it show. She nodded. That's what changed it. I stepped outside. Same porch. Same street. Nothing in the environment had shifted. But the position had. For 13 years I had believed something simple. That I left. That they misunderstood. That distance solved it. But distance doesn't resolve structure. Oh, it just hides it. And when it surfaces, it doesn't need conflict. It needs clarity. If you've ever been placed in a role you didn't choose, defined by someone else's version, you learn to adjust. To carry quietly. To fix without being seen. Until one day, you stop. Not loudly. Not dramatically. Just enough. And when you do, people don't suddenly change. They see what was already there. And sometimes, that's enough to rebuild something real. Not perfect. Not repaired. Just honest. I got in the car. Started the engine. And for the first time, I wasn't leaving something behind. I was leaving something aligned. If you're in that place right now, where you feel erased, rewritten, or misunderstood, pause. Oh, not to prove anything. Not to correct them. Just to see what happens when you stop holding the version they built. You might find the truth doesn't need your voice. It just needs your presence. Sorry.